Please work. Okay. Thank you guys so much for telling me I'm muted. Dang. Okay. Thank you guys so much. Anyways. Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know why that does it. It's just... Okay. Anyways, you guys should be able to hear me now. Whoops. Thank you, Andrew, for letting me know on the Discord there. Okay. Now, guys, can you hear me? Just want a confirmation on that. Anyways, what I was trying to say here, though, is it is expected to move across the central Philippines as a low-pressure area before then becoming a tropical cyclone. It will then be entering into the South China Sea as a tropical storm and could be nearing typhoon intensity by day 3. Again, marginal impacts are expected for a large portion of the Philippines. Slight impacts for portions of Cagayan Valley, Calabarzon, central Luzon, as well as the Bicol region, eastern Visayas, central Visayas, western Visayas, the Negros Island region, Mimaropa, and Caraga. They're all in that slight category. Moderate impacts are expected for eastern Mimaropa. They are expected to see the worst impacts from the system, and that will be mainly due to flooding. Now, briefly discussing the overview of tropics, we have a fair amount going on. We have 92W here in the western Pacific, which we just discussed where it's going. And we also have another disturbance after that, which could become a significant typhoon threat to the Philippines beyond the 7-day range. But it's quite uncertain, so right now it's a 20% chance of development within that 7-day range. In the North Indian Ocean, we have Invest 95B, which is meandering around Malaysia, has a 30% chance of development. We also have a disturbance in the Bay of Bengal here with a 70% chance of development near Sri Lanka and southeastern India. We also have Cyclone Fina, which is currently a high in Category 3, and it is about to make landfall in Australia. Now, I did want to discuss some of the satellite imagery on Verbena. It is currently a pretty broad system right now. You can see some of these, just a broad kind of circulation. It's not really completely defined enough on a scatterometer pass, so it's not a tropical cyclone just yet, in my opinion, but it's getting closer and closer. You can see a lot of these burst on the northwestern side of it, and it is starting to get some more decent outflow. As you can see some of this fanning, especially if you're in Metro Manila, you might be able to look up and see some of those wispy clouds. In terms of infrared imagery, we can see a lot of convective bursts here, a lot of thunderstorms bursting up on the western side, which is quite unfortunate that it is going to be moving over the Philippines there. Those heavy to torrential rainfall rates will be moving over the Philippines. In terms of sea surface temperatures, very warm, around 29 to 30 degrees Celsius, so that's not going to be a problem for the system here. In terms of other environmental conditions, shear is expected to increase once it gets into the South China Sea. Sea surface temperatures will be cooling down, and dry air will begin to be impacting the system when it enters the South China Sea. So really only a typhoon peak is expected out of this. In terms of distances, how far away is it from certain areas? Well, looking at Caraga, it's roughly around 260 kilometers. Leyte is around 400 kilometers, as well as the rest of eastern Visayas. Central Visayas, including Cebu City, around 500 kilometers away. And the Negros Island region's around 580 kilometers. The system's around 650 kilometers away from western Visayas, and around 900 to 1,000 kilometers away from Mimaropa, mainly in Palawan. Vietnam, you guys are far away from the system, 2.1 thousand kilometers away, but it will begin to approach you. Now let's look at the various model runs, okay? Let's start off with the HWRF model run and what it's showing the system to do. So it does become a tropical cyclone by the time it moves over western Visayas. It does potentially become a typhoon by the time it's moving through Mimaropa, mainly around Palawan. Then could intensify to a Category 2 or Category 3 typhoon by the end of the 5-day range. Looking at the HAFS A model run, it doesn't have the system becoming a tropical cyclone until after it passes the entirety of the Philippines. It then does become a brief typhoon by the end of the 5-day range. Looking at the other model runs, the European model run wants the system to become a typhoon and make landfall in Vietnam before quickly dissipating after that. And let's see if we can see that second system after this. Nope, not really seeing it, just a low pressure area in the South China Sea. Looking at the American model run and what it is showing, it does have it becoming a tropical storm in the South China Sea, but does weaken afterwards. It does have another system potentially becoming a typhoon northeast of the Philippines. The latest Canadian run does have it becoming a potential typhoon there, and it does have another disturbance developing near the Mariana Islands. See, the latest German model run does have it moving through the Philippines, does have it becoming a broad tropical storm, and doesn't really impact anywhere too severely. Now let's look at the latest ensemble members. The European ensembles are very confident that the system will become a tropical cyclone in the South China Sea, potentially becoming a typhoon, before it just stalls, and then some of those members do have it making landfall in Vietnam. Doesn't really show that next system too well. You can see that on here. Now looking at the American ensembles, again, similar story, but less of them are showing a landfall in Vietnam. And you can see that on here. Now let's discuss the European AI model run and what it has been showing, because it's been showing another system after this one. We'll discuss that right on here. So it doesn't really become a tropical cyclone too much until after... wait, no, that's not the most recent one. It doesn't become a tropical cyclone until really after it passes through some of the central Philippines, mainly by the time it moves through Mimaropa, around Palawan there. And it does become a potential typhoon before then weakening as it meanders towards Hainan Island and Vietnam. And we can also see another wave there south of the Mariana Islands that does become a tropical cyclone before moving through the central Philippines and Metro Manila. That will be beyond the 7-day range though. Again, 7-day range, it's around it is still a broad area of low pressure within the 7-day range. It has a 20% chance of being a tropical cyclone by this point. Alright. Now let's talk rainfall. How much rainfall is the system expected to dump across the Philippines? Let's go to the 7-day range. So, portions of central Visayas up to around... let me pull it up on here. Up to around 200 millimeters of rain. Some pockets could be up to 250. Areas around Mindoro could be 250 to 300 millimeters of rain. And areas around the Cagayan Valley could see much higher totals. Rainfall totals of up to 800 to 900 millimeters of rain are going to be possible there. And then also portions of the CAR could see rain totals up to 600 millimeters. Looking at the American model run, though, generally lower totals, but still areas in the Cagayan Valley could see 300 to 400 millimeters of rainfall. Areas in the Bicol region in Calabarzon could see up to 200 millimeters of rain. And areas around Cebu City could see up to around 100 to 150 millimeters of rain. And lastly, looking at the German run and how much rainfall it's showing. Again, Cagayan Valley and the CAR up to around 300 millimeters of rain and lower totals across the central Philippines. Actually, the last one will be the Access model. I'm curious what it shows. Alright, areas around Calabarzon here, mainly around Quezon, up to 400 millimeters of rain possible there. Areas of eastern Mindoro, as we mentioned earlier, over 300 millimeters of rain could fall in there. Alright, now let's look at the latest Google AI Ensemble members. Let's touch on this. So the consensus does have this system becoming a typhoon by the time it enters the South China Sea. A weak one at that, a low-end Category 1 typhoon, before it then starts meandering more to the northwest towards Vietnam and Hainan Island in China. Now let's discuss the elephant in the room, this system right here that then could be plowing into the Philippines afterwards. Let me just grab all these members. How many are showing this system becoming a tropical cyclone? 46 out of 50 of them. Oh boy, okay. So, the general consensus does have the system becoming a Category 1 or Category 2 typhoon over the next 11 days before impacting the Philippines. So this is some pretty decent confidence of it becoming a typhoon. And a lot of these members do have it peaking out as a Category 5. Roughly 20% of them, a fifth of them, have it becoming a Category 5 super typhoon. So this could become a real threat to the Philippines, but this would be beyond the 2-day range, or beyond the 7-day range. Again, I will keep you all updated on this system. Now let's discuss what Pagasa has been showing in their latest forecast on this system. So, starting off with the forecast cone, it is currently a tropical depression by their analysis, and it will remain a tropical depression throughout tomorrow. It doesn't become a tropical storm until Wednesday early morning. becomes a severe tropical storm by Thursday early morning, before then weakening by the time we get into Friday early morning and Saturday early morning. In terms of signal warnings, Signal 1 warnings are in effect across the Visayas region. We'll pull it up on here. It is in effect for portions of eastern Visayas, Caraga, as well as the entirety of central Visayas and western Visayas in the Negros Island region, as well as portions of Mimaropa and Masbate are in that Signal 1 warning. We could see areas near Palawan there be upgraded to Signal 2 warnings in the future. Now, let's discuss the rainfall potential this system will bring across the Philippines, because they have issued a rainfall forecast for the shear line as well as Verbena. So looking at today's rainfall totals, a large area of 50 to 100 millimeters of rain across the eastern Philippines. That does include the Babuan Islands, Cagayan Valley, Calabarzon, the Bicol region, as well as portions of western Visayas, the Negros Island region, central Visayas, and northern Mindanao and Caraga. There is a corridor, though, of 100 to 200 millimeters of rainfall today, which does include eastern Samar, Leyte, southern Leyte, Dinagat Islands, and northeastern Caraga. That is going to be today's rainfall totals. And then now let's show tomorrow's rainfall totals. Since there are a lot of areas that are going to see 100 to 200 millimeters of rain, that is going to include eastern Mindoro, as well as portions of the southern Bicol region, northwestern western eastern Visayas, portions of central Visayas, the Negros Island region, and western Visayas. Those areas could see 100 to 200 millimeters of additional rainfall tomorrow. Now let's discuss the rainfall on Wednesday. There is going to be a corridor of 100 to 200 millimeters of rainfall that does include areas like the Babuan Islands, Cagayan, Isabela, Aurora, and western Mindoro in that 100 to 200 millimeter of rainfall category. So some areas in terms of their totals could see up to 300 millimeters of rainfall or more, especially in eastern Mindoro. Alright, now let's look and see if there's any questions. What is the weather status in Butuan? I'll pull that area up. This is the area you're talking about in northern Caraga. Let me pull up weather radar, seeing if there's anything on here. Does that show anything? It's probably going to be rainy for you, would be my guess right now. I mean, yeah. So it's going to be rainy. Again, you are expected to see slight impacts. So what do I mean by that? Mainly localized flooding may affect low spots. So if you're in a vulnerable area, there could be some localized flooding for you there. Any chance if this tries to travel all the way to the Gulf of Thailand? Let me check where that is again. Over there, it could if it goes. Oh, not this one. If we're talking about the other system, it could if it moves more to the southwest. But it looks like it's going to make a turn to the north at the end. We can see why it's going to do that by looking at this right here. Is there going to be a trough that pulls it to the north? Or why does it get dragged to the north? Okay, looks like just a ridge to the west just blocks it from going there, really. So it just meanders to the northwest. Looks like a little bit of a trough tries to pull it up. Yeah, so pretty much there's a little bit of a ridge to the west that's preventing it from going there. The ridge to the north breaks up, so then it goes towards Hainan Island, looks like. Yeah, Vietnam can't catch a break. Yes, unfortunately, Vietnam has been getting some decent flooding, and I talked about that around a week ago or so, a week or two ago, how they were expected to get some pretty decent flooding. And yeah, this system could pose a flood threat to eastern Vietnam as well. Next name is going to be Wilma. After really, Let me just double check that. I didn't know that Verbena after Verbena. Let me check. Wow, you're right. So it's going to be Wilma. That's interesting. Thanks for letting me know about that. How about the pressure of the system? Let's see. So pressure is currently estimated at around 1,004 millibars. Let me just look at the other model runs. Are they doing a good job of estimating its pressure? Yeah, I'd say so, around 1,004 millibars or so. Let me look at what the European AI model is showing as estimating its current pressure. Yeah, around 1,004 millibars. Yeah, I guess that's fine right now. Alright. Looks like that's about all the questions. And everyone, thank you so much. Our lowest pressure for 92W. I can't really say that just yet. Actually, I could probably do something about that. Lowest pressure for it that it could become. On all the model runs, the lowest pressure is going to be, looks like 940 millibars, and that's a category 4, at least on this model run. That's the highest, the strongest that it could get on, at least on the Google AI Ensemble members. Alright, well thank you all so much for watching, and if you haven't already seen it, I animated Kalmagi, also known as Dino, that storm. So if you haven't already, please give it a watch. That is the deadliest, unfortunately, the deadliest tropical cyclone of the year across the globe. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next update, which will likely be tomorrow. And so, I will see you all in the next update.